Well, hello everyone. Today I'm sitting with somebody super special to me and special to my heart. Kathy Love and I met through the Outlier Project, and I instantly just fell in love with her energy and got to meet you in real life, hug you in real life. It was amazing. But what really captivates me about you, Kathy, is just your tenacity and the things that you've overcome in life. Like you've really done some hard things and you don't shy away from sharing about it. I think because you like to provide the depth and the energy for people to see that you can truly move through just about anything. 10 years ago, and I'll let you tell more of the story, but Kathy went through something that most people might not come back out of. And so I can't wait for you to share your story, a little bit more about the outlier, and you have a really fun coloring book. So we have a lot to cover. So, Kathy, welcome to being live with me. Is there anything you want to share about your journey or anything that comes to mind?
Thank you. Well, I will say that I fell in love with you in our first conversation. I think we knew right then that we could just keep talking forever, and so we've had some great conversations. It was great to meet you in person and just be around you and your energy. And yes, I am proud of how I have come through some of the things that presented themselves in my life. And to be honest, I am going through probably the second hardest situation right now.
Mm.
Um, and so, what's fascinating to me is watching myself go through it completely differently. My focus right now is on making sure that I get to the gym and take care of myself, making sure that I'm sleeping and drinking my water and talking to friends when I need to and taking quiet time when I need to. So what I what I always say is that doing the work is so valuable because it's really an investment. You know, I did it years ago because of a certain situation, but once you begin to heal and learn a different way, it impacts everything moving forward.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for that.
I think what I'm also hearing you say is that just because you do the healing work once, it doesn't mean you're going to not face something again. I think that that is something as I've grown in my own journey, I've learned over and over again, having a lot of life change here in this season since we've gotten to North Carolina. I know that, yeah, it makes you have to take a step back and take things a little bit easier and, really question, like, what am I going to do next? And I love that you even shared, like, reaching out to people when you need it. Because I think that as we have all of these awareness days, and mental health awareness day was just recently, we don't realize the value of our community and being connected with those who truly support us through all seasons. And so thank you for sharing that part. One of the biggest things that you bring, and I love that your cat is like, so like, cats love Zoom. I think that this is like their favorite location, or not Zoom, but you know what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
they're like, I know, I just gotta make my cameo. Anyways, but again, like, you really bring this depth of experience, and I can only imagine where this is going to take you forward in all the work that you do. So I didn't even do a great job of, telling people just about you. I mean, you're a TEDx speaker, an author. We're like diving into writing about our legacy together, which I can't wait to do that live. But you really aren't afraid to say about those hard things. So, when you were going through this hard season where actually, do you mind sharing a little bit about that instead of me asking?
Yes. I mean, no, I don't mind sharing. And I I did my first TEDx during that really hard time. And because of it, it really did help me to stay in a place where I felt comfortable talking about the things that we were going through instead of hiding them and having these dark secrets and being afraid of somebody finding out, and having my kids feel the same way. And so that first TEDx was really important to kind of set the future of how we dealt with it. And what we were dealing with was 2 weeks before I was on that stage, my now ex-husband, but my husband at the time, had left for federal prison with a 3-year, more than a 3-year sentence, which he ended up serving a year of it. So during that process, which took 4 years beginning to end, so there was an investigation, there was there were charges pressed, there was a plea agreement signed, and then there was sentencing, and then time served. It took about 4 years beginning to end. And every stage of it was just absolutely filled with fear, anxiety, um, fear, mostly fear of how this would impact all of us and what the future would look like and how I would be able to support our 3 kids on my own, because I had previously worked with him in our company. So we both lost our jobs, our source of income. We lost all of our savings, retirement savings. We lost our home, our cars. We even lost our community, which was so strong in those years where we were raising our kids. But because of everything, we moved to Buffalo, New York, where I'd grown up. And so we lost our support system. And that was the first thing that I worked on rebuilding in Buffalo, was community, because it has been, and it still is, besides breathing, it's my number 2 self-care tool. The people who I surround myself with, the people who I have on my phone that I can call when I need to, that's what's so important in my life.
Yeah.
So we were basically emotionally, financially, everything was just taken away from us. We were really stripped down to the basics. And at that time, I mean, I had some tools. I had luckily been through some Al-Anon programming for someone in my life that had brought me there. And I was very thankful that I had learned a lot of the tools that I didn't know until many years later were actually about codependency, which I coach on codependency, but at the time I didn't realize what I was learning. And so I had a lot of unhealthy distractions back then, with alcohol, with unhealthy relationships, with just completely distracting myself, and not knowing. I just didn't know how to do that in a healthy way. And that's the difference. And that's why I did the second TED Talk, was to show the difference between, I was really strong in those tough years. I mean, I just felt like I just kept getting punched and falling down and getting back up the next day. Like, it was excruciatingly painful and heavy and dark. And now the difference of being able to see situations from different perspectives, and to take a breath and to stay present without ruminating over the past, or without spending it all in the fear of the future and how it would work out. And I have a lot of trust now in myself, in the universe, and I can move through difficult things without taking them personally, with making sure that I am good, instead of putting all my energy into making sure everybody else is okay. Because when I did that, I had nothing left for myself. And so my thought was, well, I did all of this today. I deserve to have a drink, or I deserve to go out. And in fact, those things were keeping me from really feeling things and really experiencing some of the things that I needed to at the time.
Yeah, I feel like there are so many of us that go through that transition, and if we're lucky enough, we come out of it. Because I know myself, I was in a very low place before I got the help I needed in order to do the work, even now that I do today. And just coming out of that season where you're just drowning yourself and you're not dealing with things. But again, like you said, you're like, I got up today, I made it happen. I'm here. I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna celebrate the fact that I'm actually still breathing at the end of the day even though you're not, you're like literally miserable. And I think that, what I'm hearing you also kind of share is that we don't always know what we don't know. And there's no reason to, one of the things I think we have to heal from is the shame and the blame and the guilt and all of it from not doing it the right way. And just see it for what it is. Like, this is how I experienced this. This is how I went through it. And now I have the tools and the methods to move through it if I choose to, because it's still our choice at the end of the day to do all these things. And you brought up codependency. I know you coach on this, and I would love to hear, how you are putting it out into the world to pay attention to this. Because I know for a fact, like a lot of different things that are available are only really creating more codependency. And so, how do we do this in a way that is supportive for us instead of harmful?
Mhm. My approach with codependency and talking about codependency is looking at how connected we are to ourselves. A lot of people, when they talk about codependency, it's the talking is about being codependent with someone else. And although that can be true, I focus on how connected we are to ourselves. And so if we're not, if we are denying our needs because we're afraid to ask for what we need, or we're so focused on everybody else that we know what they need, but we don't even know what we need or what would make us feel better, then we are subject to all of these other unhealthy habits that can be created to make us feel that way. So I focus on self-care. Being the self-care that I talk about is all directed at connecting back to yourself. Forgiveness is self-care.
Mm.
And there is a huge piece for that. When I am coaching, people will talk about the things that they've been through and all of their stories and scenarios. But when they talk about how it impacted their kids is when they start to cry
Yeah.
and get really upset and angry with themselves and ashamed of themselves. And having my children be, 10 years older, they're all adults now. I can say that as we heal, they learn so much more from that
Mm.
than they do when we are struggling and when we're not doing the things that that we know to do now. There's so much healing that can happen in such a short amount of time when we're able to look at situations and go back and have conversations with them and say, I can understand now how this looked or felt, and this is what was really happening, and just be able to have conversations without denying that we created these you know often terrible situations, or without denying it or being upset. You know, I'm the first one to say, I know I screwed up. I know I did things I wish I never did. I know I hurt your feelings. I know I ignored your feelings. I know, and I am here and present, and I can handle anything that you can say to me now because I know that I was doing the best I could at that time with what I knew. I didn't know any different. And if I had, I would have done it differently. And I forgive myself for that.
Yeah.
I can truly, truly look back and understand why, and have compassion for what it was we were going through that led me in those directions.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the biggest things as parents is, and I talk about this often, how the labels that we have in our lives really do not serve us. Parents are humans living in a human experience or going through a human experience, spiritual beings going through human experience. And we really, whether it's our parent or ourselves, like only equipped to do what we can do in the moment. And we look back, I think, always, and we're like, man, I wish I would have known this or that. And I agree with you, there is so much more healing that's happened in my life where I have to hold that lens of, yeah, I really didn't do everything great, and I messed up, and I didn't do and support the way I know I could do now. And but you do have to get to that place of knowing it's not going to change anything to keep holding on to that energy. And we have to just choose to be better going forward. And I love, just, I can feel, the depth of everything you're saying right now, so connected. And, what do you think most people, especially women, what do you think we get wrong or misaligned with codependency?
We are taught in this culture and as women to be the caregivers and to sacrifice our time, our energy, our joy, our interests, everything to take care of our spouse, our kids, our job, our community. We're the volunteers everywhere. We are taking care of everything. Excuse me, which is not a bad thing. It's just that we can't take care of everyone and everything if we're not taking care of ourselves first.
Right.
So that's all I would say is that I my hope and what I'm seeing in younger people now is that they are prioritizing themselves. They're saying no to being asked to do certain things, knowing what's right for them and what's going to just be too much. My youngest is in nursing school. It's very heavy with deadlines and assignments and things, and she has to really be careful about balancing what else she's able to take on so that she can maintain herself and do what she's needs to do today.
Yeah.
And I love that because I didn't have that. I would wear myself ragged.
Yeah. I think it's been a very generational thing too. It's been for several generations that the expectation and moving forward had to be that if you weren't burnt out, and you didn't even call it burnout back then, you just called it working,
Right.
then you are not measuring up to success. And we're finding that really living in that state is actually causing our physical bodies so much stress, heart attack, stroke, digestive disorders, autoimmune disease actually is all from suppression. So the more we hold on to, the more our body physically starts to express in other ways, like, hey, I need help. And we're just now, I'm so proud of my kids as well. They're all adults now. And they each they set their boundaries. And I'm like, God, I wish I would have had that back in the day where it's like, no, you didn't approve my time off. Fine. I'm not, well, I mean, not that they're not going in, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of that because it just shows that they're breaking that silence and changing the norm. And to me, that's a very healthy boundary to have going forward. Like, we are not, even if you are salaried, you are not tied and tethered to this entity forever. But anyways, and how do we really pay attention when we're going down that not so supportive spiral in our head or in our environment? If we're noticing that we're going back to old patterns, how do you help guide people forward from that?
It's practice and it's noticing. So if you're noticing, you are healing. If you are simply noticing the difference in how you may have reacted in the past to how you're reacting now, just simply noticing is huge. And
Mhm.
some people will say, when I ask, like, how was the last week or two since we talked, they'll say, well, nothing big. I just noticed that No, it's not just, it's
Mm,
huge. We live in such strong denial so much of the time that to be able to notice something is huge. It's a huge sign of healing. So it's practice, because when we practice using our breath, when we practice calming our body down, it teaches us what it feels like to be in a relaxed state. Some of us are so running so fast all the time that we don't even know what that baseline feeling of relaxation is.
right.
And so it's practicing at 12 noon, it's practicing at 9 a.m. so that at 2 a.m. in the morning, when you get a phone call at 2 a.m. in the morning, that's a surprise, you can feel the difference. You can feel that your body is out. And it
Mm,
and so that practice just helps us notice, and then we can use our breath to just come back into our body. And then there's a million other tools that are out there, and some work for some people and some work for others. So everybody's responsible to figure out what it is that works for them. And if it doesn't work, to just keep going on to the next one until you find something that works for you. But that real the way that I bring myself down is through my breath, through my journal, maybe through a conversation with someone, definitely a 10-minute walk outside, or just popping my head out the door just to get a breath of fresh air. But it's but I wouldn't be able to do all of those things if I didn't know the difference of where I want to be.
right. Right. Well, you kind of mentioned how disconnected we are from our physical being and our physical body. Because I think we're so much externally, like we're always shifting externally, but never really taking the time to be here. So, like you said, our body gives us all these signals, but if they're all the same, you can't really decipher what's going on.
Mhm.
And something that I'll share that I it came through a podcast interview, and I'm like, oh man, I need to remember this one. So if you think about it, the only time we ever were taught stillness as children was primarily when we were in trouble or maybe in the school setting. And usually you were in trouble if you were, you know. So if you even think about how we've associated stillness from the very beginning, we really have to, transition that thought pattern. The other thing too is like when we think about it like running, we don't just like when we're running, our heart rate is going fast. It doesn't just stop the moment that we stop running. It literally takes time to recalibrate and come back to a state of ease and flow. And the same thing goes with our brain or when we're starting these practices. And so I feel like often we're trying to compete with like the world, I guess, whenever we sit down and we're like trying to learn how to be within, and just knowing, like you said, it's a practice and it's something that we're intentional about. And once we can figure that out, I think it really kind of opens that doorway for us to really just see it different. I love that you mentioned it needs to be what's aligned for you, because some people, they sound healing is really beneficial for their body. Others, it's like very triggering. And so it's like truly finding what resonates for you. Creative arts and expression there, journaling, like there's so many different modalities. And you're right, like we just have to calibrate on what is in alignment for us. What are the things that you're working on right now as far as, working with others? Is there anything that we need to know about as far as launching, or yeah, what are you working on in this season?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I love that idea about how we associated rest with being in trouble, or a threat almost, right? And it just
Mhm.
brought me right back to third grade. Everybody's, being too loud. Everybody put your head on your desk. And instead of just building that into the day, like, hey, we're going to take a minute here. Everybody just put your head on the desk and
Right.
just take some breaths, and then we'll come back and do our thing. And instead of building that into our routine, it was a punishment. So I love
Mm.
that concept that you brought up. So I don't have anything new to speak of, but I am continuing to speak. So after this second TEDx, a few people have reached out, and I'm really excited to be speaking in March at the Rio de Sol Transformation Kitchen event in New York. That is because it's so special to me, having been to Nicaragua on our Outlier Project humanitarian expedition. So speaking, sharing what I believe is true self-care with people.
Mhm.
My coloring book brings me a lot of joy.
Mhm.
So that's something that I like to share with people. And I am doing the coaching, one-to-one coaching. So you can find me on myselfcareshit.com, and who knows, I'm sure there will be something new coming soon, but
Oh, good.
I
Yeah.
have to get quiet, right? Like that's how I find the next thing. I get quiet, and then if I come up with an idea and it gives me butterflies, I go, "Oh, that's it." So when I
Yeah.
had the idea for the coloring book, it gave me butterflies, and I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go."
Oh my gosh, I love this. And I can like feel it in your like smile and your energy of just like how much joy that brings. And I think creative expression is one of the biggest things that helps us move through so much emotion. I really feel like the sacral energy gets kind of left behind often where, when you don't process emotion, then you don't have as much creativity or flow or all the things there. But that's exciting. I can't wait to take a look at it and get one for myself. But so you and I met through the Outlier Project, which is just a community. And I want to double tap on what you said earlier about community because I feel that's why we align so well is that like community is at the heart of everything that I do because I think and I kind of posted about this yesterday where it was like, I'm realizing how the last 10 years I've had community and I've built community everywhere we've gone, but having moved that many times, like the having to leave the people that you love and care about is so challenging at times. And so I'm really excited to get to build, relationships and friendships where I get to see them more often, or actually knowing that we're staying is a whole different layer of complexity. Like my brain's still it's like, oh, we won't be leaving in 2 years. So I can actually, I can build this friendship and it will not have to be a voice memo in 2 years, so,
Yeah.
or phone calls. But community is so important. And I think that as we go through all of the things that we're going through right now, we really need so much more community and connection because I think we heal through everyday conversations and connections. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've met from the Outlier Project where I'm in tears or I'm sitting there thinking, gosh, like, you are so humble for all the things that you've done in this world. And like, you just have a big heart, or, just seeing the impact, like Transformation Kitchen and the things that really great humans are doing great work. And sometimes we just have to find those conversations so that we can remember the hope and we can build that hope up, right? And that's what I've gained from being in this community is it's raised, and I hope you're listening, Scott, it has raised my hope level, right? Like I just feel this energy rising within my soul. So tell us about it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I am as much a member of the Outlier Project as I am, working with Scott to make it all happen. And it's changed my life dramatically. The relationships that I've made with our members, with some of our guests who have been on our virtual events, they've become really good friends, that I've traveled with, that I've traveled to, that have come and stayed with me. It's a it's a very different level of relationship that gets created in there because, like you said, people are humble, they're honest, they're open, so the community itself is for people who are really interested in learning and growing and personal development and building these great relationships. So we have events that are, geared toward that. But for me, it just always comes down to the people. There could be no events on the calendar, and we would have the same type of relationships with each other because of who we are. And they, as I mentioned about this rough thing that I'm going through right now, it was outliers who I called first. It was outliers who I hadn't even talked to in a while, but I knew they would pick up the phone, and I knew that they were the person I needed to talk to, and they were.
Mhm.
So it's added just so much joy and I was going to say safety. There is some kind of safety it's added to my life, and just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad it led you to, or you got led to us and joined us.
Oh, I know. It's been, I joined in July, which is kind of crazy. It's only been that short period, or it feels
Right?
like it's been longer. But yeah, Enrique kept posting about it. And I just knew, it was like the moment I had the conversation with Scott was what sealed it for me. I was just like, he's such an incredible person. He has a genuine desire and care to see people come together. And like, this community should be valued a lot higher. I will just put that out there. Like, it just, the people that come in, and it's a very, like you said, safe space to be. It doesn't ever feel, in my heart, it doesn't ever feel transactional in there ever. And I just love that. And so thank you, Scott, for having the idea that you implemented and took action on, and brought us all together. Um, as we come to our ending, is there anything you hope people really take away from today that they can just hold in their heart space?
I love that you just brought up the word hope. And if there is one thing that I would always love to offer, is that there is hope to go through really hard things that you may not see. You can't even fathom how they will work out, that there's hope to do things differently, because we all know. I mean, I knew when I was doing things that were unhealthy that they were unhealthy. I just didn't know how to them differently. So there is hope to make changes when we want to. There's hope for healing. There's hope for creating the relationships and the life that we want. And if I can be an example of that, that makes me really happy. That makes me, and I used to say all the time, I just hope that going through all of this, something good comes out of it, that I can help someone else go through something unimaginable to them and believe that there are better days ahead.
Absolutely. I just appreciate all of that. I think anybody that's been through it and has really come out of it, I think we all share that value, where we just know that it can't all be for nothing, right? We couldn't have gone through the hardship without it serving a much deeper purpose in the future. And again, I know you have to kind of be in a place of healing in your own life to feel that way, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to feel it today. If you're in the middle of hardship, like, just knowing that you can come through it sometimes is even the challenge itself. But once you do, you will absolutely turn that into higher purpose, because there's just no other way, I don't think. But well, thank you so much, Kathy. The best way for people to reach out to you, is it on LinkedIn? Do you like Instagram?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. I am on Instagram. My website is myselfcareshit.com, and that has all of my links on there too. Yeah, you can easily get me. And I wish that this was, 2 hours longer, but I guess we'll have to wait until
Yeah,
an
we're gonna do some more. We're doing
opportunity.
this. No, we're doing this in the outlier for sure. But all right, everyone, we will see you later. Thank you so